How's it going, everyone? Hope everyone had a great weekend. We are here with a no box challenge and chapter 11, 12, and 13 of the Thieves of Sun. Anyways, let's get into it.
Enemy dropping into the AO.
Switching mags.
Chapter 11, Aftermath unfolds. By the next dawn, the city no longer called itself holy. Its spires smoldered, its banners hung half-torn, and the air shimmered with strange, dust-pale light that cast no shadows. The high crystal tower had stopped burning, but it still glowed faintly at night, like the ember of God that had refused to die. Jalen and the guide moved through its outer districts cloaked in soot and silence, ghosts among ruins. The priest-search parties had spread across the city, bearing mirrored masks and torches that hissed with powdered salt. They no longer sought thieves, they hunted echoes. Something had changed in those who stood too near the tower. Their pupils gleamed with faint light, their breath fogged even in heat, and when they spoke of the suns they whispered as if someone might answer back. The freed sun was not gone. It was moving through them. They found their third survivor 2 days later. The shadow, bruised and limping, emerged from the river market's smoke like a knife returned to its sheath. Her cloak was ruined, her mask cracked, but her eyes were sharp as ever. She said nothing at first, just looked at Jalen as though deciding whether to kill him or herself. Finally, "You broke it." Jalen didn't argue. She dropped her satchel, spilling out shards of something that had once been part of the cage. Each piece hummed faintly with light, soft, almost sad. "Not all of it shattered," she said. "From the crystal still sings. I followed it. It leads somewhere beneath the city." The guide frowned. A refuge? More like a root. She looked to the tower's distant ruin. Whatever that sun was, it didn't rise from the sky. It grew from below. The cage was just a bloom. That night, they sheltered in the skeleton of a burned shrine. Its walls still bore murals of the twin suns locked in their crystal prisons, symbols of divine order, control, purity. But the pigments had warped from heat, and now the sun's faces seemed to twist into something wild, laughing. The shadows spread the shard before them. Each pulsed faintly in rhythm, as though breathing together. When Jalen placed his hand near one, the air prickled. He heard, not words, not even sound, but the suggestion of a thought. "Do you understand yet?" He flinched back. The others stared. "What did it say?" The guide asked. "Nothing." Jalen lied, but his pulse betrayed him. The whisper was returning, not as temptation this time, but as recognition. By morning, rumors had thickened like dust. People claimed the sun no longer rose the same way. It paused, flickered, or split briefly into two. Farmers reported crops ripening overnight, then rotting before dusk. The priests called it a trial. The merchants called it a curse. The poor called it justice. And beneath all of it, a new faith began to coil through the alleys. The dawn unchained. Followers of the freed light. They painted their faces with ash and glass dust and whispered that the gods had never wanted to be worshipped, only freed. When Jalen overheard the first of their hymns, half prayer, half rebellion, he knew the sun's influence was spreading faster than the priests could bury it. He turned to the others. "We need to find the root." The guide's voice was flat. "And then what?" "Cage it again. Understand it first," Jalen said. "Then decide." The shadow's gaze was unreadable. "You sound like a priest yourself." "Maybe that's what a thief becomes," Jalen murmured, "when the gods start stealing back." They left the city that night, following the shard's faint hum toward the under desert. The labyrinthine caverns beneath the kingdom where the first sons were supposedly mined and forged. The priests had forbidden anyone from descending there for centuries, but the shards pulsed brighter with every step. By the time the last towers disappeared behind them, Jalen realized something. The hum wasn't just leading him down, it was calling others, too. Lights flickered on the horizon, torches, maybe, or eyes, or newborn stars learning how to walk. The aftermath was no longer a matter of ruin or escape. It was becoming a second dawn.
I'm here. Switching mags. That was close.
Chapter 12. The Descent Beneath the Desert. The sands south of the city were not meant to be crossed. They hissed like serpents even without wind, their heat swallowing footprints almost as soon as they formed. No roads ran here, no caravans passed. The priests had called it the Scorched Sea, a cursed expanse where the gods had burned their own reflections out of shame. Jalen and his surviving crew followed that memory into the dunes. By day, the light was unbearable, too white, too sharp, like walking beneath a blade. But at night, the sand shimmered faintly, each grain glowing as if it remembered the touch of the suns. The shards they carried pulse and harmony, faint beacons pointing ever east and downward. They walked until the stars bent. The entrance revealed itself not as a cave but collapse, a sinkhole where glass and sand had fused into a spiraling funnel. At its base, stone glimmered beneath the dunes like the ribs of a buried giant. This is where the suns were born, the shadow murmured. The mines of first dawn. Jalen said nothing. His throat ached from silence. The air down here was cooler but heavy, dense with the smell of ancient metal and something older, ozone or memory. They lit a lamp, though the shards seemed to glow stronger the deeper they went. The descent twisted through carved halls that had not seen worship in centuries. Walls etched with old prayers, lines about binding light, shaping flame into obedience. The hieroglyphs shimmered faintly as they passed, and sometimes, just at the corner of Jalen's sight, the figures seemed to move. Chains, hands, eyes like suns closing in despair. At the third chamber, they found the first mirror seal, a massive disc of polished glass, cracked in a spiderweb pattern, blocking a narrow archway. The shards hummed furiously when Jalen approached. The guide pressed his ear to the surface and winced. "It's singing," he whispered, but backwards, like it's unmaking a song instead of playing one. The shadow circled the seal. "It's not a door. It's a warning." Jalen stepped closer. The hum vibrated through his bones. Beneath the glass, light moved, slow, fluid, almost alive. The same pulse he'd felt in the tower before everything burned. He reached out. The shadow grabbed his wrist. "You saw what happened last time someone touched it." "I did," Jalen said quietly. "That's why I have to." He pressed his palm to the surface. The world shuddered. The light didn't burn this time. It remembered. It poured through him not as fire, but as image, flashes of memory that weren't his. The first suns, forged in the breath of stars, bound by mortal hands into crystal. The kingdom's birth, its cities fueled by the cage radiance. Priests crowning themselves keepers of dawn. The rebellion of light, when one sun tried to flee and was shattered beneath the earth. Its fragments, the shards they now carried, were all that remained. And then he saw the truth. The suns were never divine. They were alive. Not gods, but children. Curious, wild, trapped by the faith of men who feared the dark. When Jalen's hand fell away, he was shaking. The mirror seal now lay dim and still, its hum gone. The shadows studied him. "What did it show you?" "That we didn't steal their power," he whispered. "We stole their childhood." They pressed on. The tunnels widened into a vast chamber carved like a cathedral's heart. At its center stood a broken forge, metal ribs surrounding an empty cradle. The ground glittered with shards, each faintly pulsing with that same living rhythm. The guide knelt. This is where they made them, or where they died. Jalen moved to the edge of the forge. His reflection wavered on the metal, pale and hollow-eyed. Behind it, faintly, something watched back. A light stirred within the cradle. Not bright, just a pulse, like a heartbeat waiting to begin again. The shards in their packs began to hum an answer. The shadow took a step back. Jalen, whatever that is, don't. But Jalen was already kneeling, his hand hovering over the cradle. He felt the same thought as before, clearer now. You freed one. Will you free the rest? He looked at his companions, burned, scarred, half-ghosts already, and at the endless dark beyond the forge. If we don't, he said, someone else will. Then he placed the shards into the cradle. The chamber filled with light. Not fire, not flame. Something gentler and infinitely older. It rose through the ceiling like breath through sand, reaching toward the bruised sky above. And for a moment, the world had two dawns.
Enemy UAV overhead.
Chapter 13. The Two Dawns. At first, no one believed what they saw. The horizon split open with color. The old sun rising as wounded gold, and beside it, a second light, softer but vast, blooming like a slow exhale. The sky couldn't hold both. Shadows tangled in confusion, stretching in two directions at once. In the city of the high tower, the bells did not ring. The priests fell to their knees, their mirrored masks flashing with panic as they realized their god had doubled or divided. Merchants poured into the streets to stare. Farmers abandoned their fields to watch the sky change hue from amber to white to something indescribable. The people whispered new names into the light. The first flame, the gentle sun, the child returned. And through it all, Jalen's name began to pass from mouth to mouth. Half curse, half prayer. Beneath the dunes, Jalen watched the forge collapse into silence. The last of the shards had fused together, their hum gone. He could no longer tell if the thing he had freed was still within the cradle, or now everywhere. The guide leaned against a pillar, his face streaked with tears he didn't seem aware of. "You did it," he whispered. "You broke the sky." The shadows stood apart, expression unreadable. "No," she said softly. "He didn't break it. He showed us it was never whole." The light seeped down even here, filtering through cracks in the stone like liquid dawn. It painted their shadows twice, one golden, one silver white. Jalen watched them ripple and cross until he couldn't tell which was truly his. He thought of the sun's whisper, "You freed one. Will you free the rest?" But now, with two suns in the sky, he wondered if the question had already been answered. By the second day, the kingdom began to unravel. The priest declared the second sun a false dawn and ordered all mirrors shattered. But the shards still sang faintly, and when people held them up to the sky, they swore they could see something moving between the two lights. Vast shapes, like wings of flame or children learning to walk again. Rivers changed course. Crops grew strange. The desert began to bloom at night, and from the east, travelers brought stories of a new faith spreading faster than any patrol could burn it. The Church of the Freed Flame. Their creed was simple. The suns are not to be worshipped, but to be released. At their altars, they painted Jalen's likeness, always with two shadows, always facing east. He and his companions returned to the surface by twilight. The world felt sharper, as though every grain of sand had learned to hum. From a dune crest, they saw the twin suns together for the first time. One steady, one still trembling, finding its shape. Between them hung a veil of shifting color, a seam of brilliance that throbbed like a heartbeat across the horizon. The guide whispered, "Is that alive?" Jalen didn't answer. He didn't trust his voice. The shadows spoke instead. What happens when the other sons hear this one song? They'll wake, Jalen said. And when they do, the world will have to decide what kind of light it wants to live under. He looked toward the city, its towers gleaming in confused daylight, its prayers divided, its faith cracking like glass. And for the first time since the tower's fall, he felt no guilt, only awe, because in every broken thing, every shard, every ruin, every theft, he could see the truth the sons had whispered all along. Light was never meant to be caged. That night, as they camped in the cool dunes, Jalen lay awake, watching both dawns fade into each other. The old sun burned out first, giving way to the new one's gentler glow. For a heartbeat, the sky balanced. Two lights breathing as one. He smiled without knowing why. Somewhere beneath the desert, deep in the forge's ruins, something stirred. Quiet, patient, watching. It had learned how to rise. And soon, it would learn how to speak.
Four remain. Finish the job. Gas is inbound. Marking new safe zone. Gas is closing in. Incoming LDVR. Gas is closing in. Get to the new safe zone. You're in the top three. Don't let up now. Gas is moving. Enemy advanced UAV overhead. You're in the last two. Now finish this. They picked the wrong fight. Way to get it done.
As always, be sure to let me know what you think of the story so far and what other challenges that you would like to see. And as always, don't let things weigh you down.